Welcome, everybody, to What Do You Do with a BA in Theater, presented by Dallas Summer Musical's Education and Community Partnerships Department. My name is Seth Johnson, and I'll be your host for this series. We have a fabulous guest today. Jessica, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I am Jessica Lemons. What all do you want me to tell about myself? Like, my favorite color is glitter, but beyond that, what really are you wanting to know?
So Jessica, where are you from, and where did you go to college, and what are you doing career-wise?
Okay, well, I am originally from Abilene, Texas. If you're in the DFW area, that's like 2.5, 3-ish hours away, depending on how fast you drive and how much attention you pay to road laws. But that's where I grew up. And then I went to Abilene Christian. I got a bachelor's of music with a focus on vocal performance. So essentially, I studied opera. I just kind of stumbled into that. I didn't give it very much thought. I mean, I was 17 years old at the time, and singing was just kind of this thing that I could do. So that's what I did. But I'd also been dancing for most of my life and involved in theater. So whenever I graduated, I wanted to pivot from opera to musical theater because, well, I missed dancing, quite frankly. But I didn't really know what I needed to do in order to do that. Like, where should I move? Should I up and move right to New York? Did I need to go somewhere and save money? So I opted to go somewhere and save money. And I moved, of all places, to the Bryan College Station area. I have family here. It wasn't just completely random. I didn't like throw a dart at a map of Texas and wind up. But I moved here because I had family here and started working in a kitchen in downtown Bryan, which is where I met my now husband. And while I was still taking show contracts in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we found out that we were pregnant with our first, I call them my spawnlings. We found out that elder spawnling was cooking. And so I opted to move back here. Partially for the low cost of living, but partially just because we had some very close friends here and it seemed like a good idea. And that's panned out very well. Whenever I moved back here, I got to help start a small theater company, which I loved. This is Water Theater. We made it for 5 years. I got to be there for the full run, which was an amazing experience. It's actually really funny. I was pregnant with my first child whenever I auditioned and was pregnant with my next child during our final show. And so, yeah, I know. Andrew cried whenever I told him I was pregnant. It was really, really sweet. But Andrew was our director back then. But theater-wise, that's most of what I've been doing. I've participated in a few other one-off projects, but that's the theater bundle of my career. I've done a lot, so just bear with me, you guys. I have taught dance classes for about the last 5 years, primarily focusing on musical theater, but I have also done like some creative movement. I've taught preschool ballet and tap. So I pretty much am afraid of nothing now because I have taught 2-year-olds how to tap dance. Like, you cannot scare me after that experience. They're so cute though. I've taught private voice lessons. I'm a kinder music educator, but the big thing that I really do and that I love, and like this is the business that I have that I've been building and working in, I'm a copywriter, which is a sector of marketing. I like helping businesses, and particularly small businesses, just because they have my heart. But I help them with their messaging and their branding and help them figure out how do you stand out in a world where everybody is at each other's throats trying to get ahead? How do you make sure that you're the one that your customer picks? And that is most of what I do right now.
Yeah, that's a really amazing path to take, career-wise. There's like a very clear through line, at least in my head, of like how you got to like all the way to copy editing, and
writing, not editing.
Oh, writing, copy.
No, they have to hire editors to work for me.
Perfect. I was like, that's impressive. Yeah, no,
I have done some copy editing, but I prefer the actual creative work, the writing.
That's amazing. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the college life. I know, so you went in for vocal performance and basically majored in opera there.
Yep.
What kind of just drew you to that, and what were you doing, I guess, in college to kind
Oh.
of develop that career?
Well, it wasn't necessarily that something drew me to that. I'm going to be very upfront about that.
Yeah.
Which this also segues into, hey kids, be cautious when selecting private instructors, and that's just all we will say about that.
Mm-hmm.
But music had been a part of my life since I was young. My mom is a collaborative pianist. She's also in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and it just seemed like a natural path. And I wasn't bad at it, so I just kind of kept doing it. But yeah.
Yeah. So, what have you pulled, I guess, from that experience to help with your straight play acting? Because you've transitioned more into like doing plays versus musicals.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Phenomenally, if I may say.
Well, thank you. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. I also choreograph musicals sometimes whenever I have spare time. But
Just whenever you have spare time.
with musicals, I prefer to be behind the scenes these days and not on stage. But straight play, oh, gimme.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, a lot of what I took from that, in particular, in the middle of my singing education, I missed acting, and so I kind of started like trying to like really get into my performances more. So I was like, this is boring. I am like parking and barking, and that's dumb. And that was like 18-year-old Jessica talking, by the way. Like, if you are studying opera and you're serious about it, listen to your teacher. But anyhow, I remember there was one teacher who they watched a NATS performance of mine, National Association of Teachers of Singing. It's a competition. But he sought me out afterwards and was like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, first of all, that was impressive. I had very swollen tonsils at the time, and he knew that I was having surgery less than a week after that particular performance. But I just wanted to let you know, you don't have to feel like you need to like move around as much to tell your story. You have a very expressive face. And the next time I see you, I really hope that you have leaned into that a little bit. And that stuck with me. And so I did a whole lot of facial work the next few years. And honestly, like even during my work with This Is Water, so much of the acting was we performed in very intimate settings. Our venues were never very large. And so a lot of the work had to be more introspective, and going back to what that teacher told me that day of, you have a very expressive face. I would like to see you learn to use that more. That has, I don't want to say that it like formed me as an actor, but that was a key moment, and one that still stands out more than a decade later.
Yeah. So I've had the pleasure of actually directing you in a show with This Is Water. And I just love how you used movement to just really develop these different characters that you played in every scene. How has that movement just experience helped you on the stage? And then how has it also helped you as a copywriter?
Well, like I mentioned, I have been a dancer most of my life. So I have always been very aware of my body and how I'm moving it, and like how I'm holding myself at any given moment. Like right now in the back of my head is running like, hey, you're holding a lot of tension in your jaw. You should maybe like leave some space right there. Well, that changes the way that I speak. And honestly, it changes like everything from my mid back up. Same thing with pretty much all of your body. Anytime you are on stage, there are tiny little minuscule muscle movements that I would not be aware of had I not been doing this my entire life. And so like with the show that you directed, I remember there was one scene, because that show, the floor was concrete, and there was a little bit of physical work in that particular production. That I remember there was one, I think it was the night that we staged the golf club scene, that I was like really afraid of hurting myself, because I also broke a toe, not doing that production, but somewhere else. I was operating on a bum foot. But I just remember being so scared of falling, and like that was I just straight had to draw on dance training to keep my balance and keep from hurting myself further, because you had me do some freaky like backwards zombie possession crawl. It was weird. It was effective, but it was weird. And like learning how to get into that was terrifying. I was like, okay, so if my head hits this floor on my way down, that's it. Bye, Jess. But it worked.
Yeah. For those of you out there, it was a like video game based play. Really, really fun. Called Neighborhood 3, Requisition of Doom, if you ever want to just pick it up and read it.
It's a cheery tale.
Yeah.
It's not a cheery tale. It is not a feel-good story. Don't read it right now.
No, wait till you're in college and read that. Like during the day.
During the day, yes. Lights on, have like a nice weighted blanket ready for you later.
Absolutely. Call your parents afterwards and just hug them, you know.
Call your mom. Your mom.
Absolutely. Gosh. So what has been your favorite part of working with smaller companies like This Is Water, and then also the smaller companies that you work with as a copywriter?
Oh, goodness. Well, when it comes to smaller theater companies like This Is Water, I am someone who I very much appreciate the community aspect. I am a mom of 2 young children. And so getting out and about and like going to see other people, it's not very easy for me because I will have my little ones with me. And at the time of this recording, we're also in the middle of having to stay home because of coronavirus. My husband's a chef, and we have somebody on staff who, well, she's a type 1 diabetic, and our circle of contact is the same. And so if any of us get exposed, not only does it put the restaurant at risk of us having to be like, hey, had a staff member get COVID, we're going to close for 2 weeks while we all quarantine, sorry you guys, but that puts our staffer with diabetes in a very dangerous position. And so back to the communal aspect of the small groups, those relationships that were formed, those are still the people that I'm calling and texting and staying in contact with if I'm having a rough spot or I just need to hide in my closet and cry for a minute. Those are the people that I can call, and they will not judge me for being an overwhelmed mom trying to help my kid distance learn. And that kind of bond and closeness would not have happened without that small group of people learning to trust one another show after show after show with honestly some very rough material in some cases. And with copywriting, I've done some work with my husband's restaurant, and we're a pretty tight-knit group there as well. And so I like with small businesses that I'm able to hone in on their target audience a little more quickly instead of having to do broad sweep research. I like the heart of what they do. You don't go into a small business because you're wanting to make $1 million and buy your own private jet and not have to do anything ever again. Like, oh my gosh, this is the life. No, you're going to wear all of the hats. And normally whenever somebody who runs a small business is willing to bring me on, because I'm not cheap, it's because they've hit a point of they cannot handle their marketing anymore. And they've been terrified to turn it over to somebody else because it's their baby. And I'm the one that they're trusting, not just with their baby, but they're making a pretty significant investment if they're hiring me. And that sense of trust and that belief that I'm going to do right by them and make sure that they make that money back. I love watching that happen. It's magical.
Yeah. Well, that sounds amazing. Jessica, before we wrap up the interview, I've been asking everybody if they could go back to their own high school selves and give them one piece of advice.
Oh, God. Oh, you would throw that one at me. Honestly, if I could go back to high school me and give her one piece of advice, it would be no is a complete sentence.
Great. That is a very, very, very important piece of advice.
Yeah.
You have to take care of yourself before you can take care of anything else.
You can't pour from an empty cup, and you don't have to do something to make other people happy if it's not serving you well. You don't. I did not learn that until I was 30 years old. So learn faster than me.
At this point of the interview, Jessica, I am going to insert a musical guest that will go right here.
Hi, musical guest.
Dum ba dum bum bum, brum ba dum bum bum, brum ba dum bum bum, brum ba dum bum bum. Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons? You're the saddest bunch I ever met, but you can bet before we're through, Mister, I'll make a man out of you. Be a man, you must be swift as the coursing river, with all the force of a great typhoon. Be a man, with all the strength of a raging fire, mysterious as the dark side of the moon.
That was great. Thank you, musical guest. Thank you, Jessica. You have been amazing. You continue to be just a light and a joy within the Bryan College Station area and all over the place. I love seeing your work on Facebook and on social medias. If you don't know, Jessica does these amazing story times that just make me feel like a child again. And
I actually pre-recorded tonight because I wasn't sure how long this was going to go. So I've got an alarm waiting to tell me, like, hey, post the thing. So
there you go.
But thank you.
Yeah.
Glad you're watching.
It's good to see other people do these amazing things online, especially during these really hard times. Viewers out there, keep creating if you feel the urge to create. If you don't, that's also okay. Just listen to yourself, stay safe, wash your hands, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye.